Hey friend, I have some really exciting news. The Profit Genius book is about to launch, and I have a special pre-order offer for you. So here's the deal. If you pre-order the Profit Genius book, which is coming out September 18th, if you pre-order the book, I'm going to give you two special bonuses. The first bonus is an invitation and a ticket to the Profit Genius Challenge. This is going to be a live workshop that I will be doing with anyone who pre-orders the Profit Genius book. You'll also get the Profit Genius workbook completely free. So pre-order the Profit Genius by September 18th to get your two bonuses, the Profit Genius Challenge ticket and your Profit Genius workbook. You're going to want this special bonus offer, and it's only $14.99. So to get your offer, you can either click on the link in the show notes or head on over to ciarastockeland.com where you'll find the link to get your pre-order Profit Genius book today. Hey friend, welcome to the Inventory Genius podcast, where we work together here to make you an inventory genius. We talk about profit, we talk about cash flow, and we definitely talk about your paycheck. Because at the end of the day, it's all related to your inventory. Let's go. Your host, Ciara, and today I'm with someone that we've been trying to do this for a while. She's been super gracious with me to reschedule and reorganize things. And then today we had traffic and it was crazy, but we're finally here for this conversation. I'm really excited about talking all about Etsy today with Dylan. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ciara. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So tell us who you are, what you do, and how you got into this side of the retail world.
Yes. So I'm from the Midwest. I studied business on the East Coast, studied buying and product development in London for a little bit, and then got started in corporate e-commerce. And I worked for Zappos. They're owned by Amazon, so a lot of planning and forecasting and buying and product development, all of that there. And then moved up to Seattle and worked for Zulily. Now, very different business model.
Yes.
They didn't really have much inventory to hold, anyways, and very different, but learned a lot. And then started on Etsy when I got married. We moved a lot because we're military. So I just threw something up on Etsy. A couple months later, the thing sold, and I thought, oh my goodness, now I have to ship this. And
Yes.
let's see, about 5 years later, we were over $1 million in profit. And now, 8 years later, we are teaching Etsy sellers how to scale. So we specialize in Etsy, but we also sell on Amazon and Shopify.
Okay, I love that. Well, we're going to talk about profit today because we don't want to just be selling stuff. We want to be keeping some of that cash. And I
Right.
know, we think about Etsy and think it's so competitive. How am I going to stand out on a platform like that? You've done it, and
Yeah.
now you help others do it. So just give us the basics. Like, why should we explore the idea of Etsy with our
Mhm.
product?
Mhm.
And then what do you do to help makers
Yeah.
sell and find success?
Yeah. So when you think about selling a product, I mean, there's your cost of goods sold, right? There's the product itself, if it's a physical product, but then there's also how are you going to get eyes on it? And there is an opportunity cost to not having a high velocity of sales. So we focus on your gross margin dollars. We focus on things like your hourly wage, right? Because sure, you could be making $5,000 a month and you think that's amazing, but you're working, 80 hours a week and you're killing yourself. Like,
Yes, and it's not fun. Yeah.
right. So we don't want to be working for minimum wage. We want, our students, some put in 10 hours a week, some put in 50 hours a week. We want it to be worth your time, whatever that time is. So, we really focus pricing around the hourly wage profit, but also we look at Etsy as a platform as delivering a lot more than just a place to have a transaction. We look at the value of the customers it brings. So if you're selling on Amazon, right, your fees are going to be a little bit higher. It's a totally different playing field in terms of competition, a little bit more of a price war. You can compete in many more ways outside of price on Etsy. And then if you had something like Shopify or your own website, well, now you're responsible for driving traffic. And what is that?
Yes.
Yeah, what is that going to cost? So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's really interesting because, yeah, a lot of people will say Etsy or Fair, any of these third-party platforms, I just don't want to pay the fees. They take so much. But like you said, if you're featuring your product on your own Shopify site, you have that same cost. It's just sunk into a different line item on the P&L because now you're having to market and drive people. You're not getting the traffic that a platform like Etsy would bring.
Exactly. And it's a much more known quantity with Etsy because it's more of a variable cost where, you pay a percentage on what you sell versus on Shopify, you
Sure,
might
a hope
might
and a
say, "Oh,
wish.
I have a $3,000 marketing budget." Okay, you might spend 3,000 and no one buys anything. And then
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So when someone does Etsy or uses Etsy well, what does that look like?
Yes. It looks different for everyone because it depends on how big you want it to be. I would say it's going well when it's worth your time. So you really get out what you put in, right? It does take more action on the front end for it to become more passive in time, but it looks like you put in time, you have product market fit, you understand your customer, you build your product mix strategically, and fulfillment is smooth, whether that's yourself or you start
Mm,
to outsource. That's really what it looks like in cash flow. Like I can't tell you how many sellers I talk to who they say, "Yeah, I made $100,000 last year. How much did you make?" Because
yeah,
you still paycheck to paycheck. Like, that shouldn't be that way. Something's off.
yeah, yeah. And so then do you dig into the pricing structure with them? Is that where you focus first, or where's that focus
Yeah,
for you?
pricing, we look at where the money is going. And I most of the time, a lot of the times if they are living paycheck to paycheck and their revenue looks great, their top line looks great, but there's an issue with cash flow, it's sometimes or oftentimes ads.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, because that spend can get out of control. We
Yeah.
feel like throwing that money in the slot machine. Next time it'll work. I'll just give a little bit more. And we're not measuring to see what we really truly need for an ROI.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And in terms of um, planning and forecasting, we're really big on that. So that you don't overbuy, you're not underbought and running out of stock. We never want to leave money on the table, but we also don't want you to get into a situation where you're sitting on a bunch of inventory that's not moving and you don't know how to move it. So we teach you
Yeah.
how to move things that aren't moving.
So, can you give us a story of one of the clients maybe that came to you that felt like this is the last straw? Like, I'm gonna try working with Dylan because if I don't, I have to shut my doors. It's just not working. And how you were able to help them become successful on the platform.
Yeah, so one of my students, I'll bring her up. Her name's Nee. We actually interviewed her and we visited her last month. She's in Las Vegas, and she really desperately wanted to quit her corporate job with Tesla, and she only had about 250 sales on Etsy. She was hardly making any money, and she was giving it one last effort. She said, "If I'm going to really try this, I want to know I gave it my all."
Yeah.
And so we've been working with her now for over a year. She, got pretty quickly in that first year to over $50,000 a month. She just had a listing in the last 30 days. It did $32,000 for one product, one listing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so that's a great story. Her husband lost his job. Now they do this full time together.
Oh, that's awesome. So what did she do? What were some action steps she took,
Yeah.
where you guided her to make these decisions or take these steps that really helped her get to where she is today, a year and some change later?
Yeah, I would say her product mix. That was one big area. She was really limited and thinking just along the lines of one thing. It was print on demand at that time. A lot of people are scared of physical products because they're scared of inventory,
Yeah.
but it can be one of the most lucrative, highest margin things. And we helped her get some products in that were over 70% margin, high sell through, and it was incredible what this did for her family. It really blew up, and also helping her with hiring because she became the constraint in the
Yes.
business pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. So like what we talk about around here all the time, margin mixed with that high volume is just such a recipe for success.
Yeah.
So when you have that product and figure out how to stock it accurately and then charge enough or buy at a good rate so that you have a good margin, so important for the bottom line.
Yeah.
How exciting for her and for you to be able to walk along with her in that journey.
So rewarding. Yes. Cause most people, they're just, if you don't know, if you haven't done it before, it's intimidating and you're like, can I do that? Um,
Yeah.
and then you start to get some wins under your belt and you become really confident. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's working on Etsy right now really well? Like what are people after?
Yeah. I would say, Etsy is one of the last places to get trends. So what works really well is bringing trends that are not on the platform yet to the platform.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't want to look and think, oh, that person has a bestseller on Etsy. I'm going to do something like that. You're going to be chasing success at this point. So also building a strategic product mix. So not just focusing on, a shop full of mugs that are 19.99. It's not a one-dimensional product mix. We need different listings that have different purposes. And I love that you talk about profitability because, we really look at a blended margin. So some things you might have are a loss leader, right? They're just going to bring customers in. But when we look at your average order value and your total, your average margin, those gross margin dollars, we want to make sure that, we're focused on that. So a dynamic product mix, some higher price point items that are really going to pay the bills, some loss leaders that are going to get people in, and building that dynamic product mix, that is so essential to be successful nowadays.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And you help clients figure that out. So when they work with you, you dig in and start to help them figure out what that should look like.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have a checklist to run your ideas through so you don't throw spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. I love it. So what's on the horizon for you? Do you have like how can people work with you? Do you
Yeah.
have any programs? Do you have any exciting events coming up? What does the rest of the year look like?
We do. Oh my goodness. We just announced. So we are having an event in Orlando, the Ultimate Etsy Summit. That is in let's see, a couple months, October 10th and 11th. Everyone's invited. We're announcing that this week actually on YouTube. And then we have our program. It's unlimited one-on-one private coaching. You get myself and my team. So there's 12 of us on the team. At the
Amazing.
event, our coaches are going to be there. We're going to bring in speakers and it's going to be really exciting. So lots of ways to get help. We have free content on YouTube too. So just there's no reason not to move your business forward. There's free
Yeah.
options, paid options, whatever you need.
So, a question I have before we wrap up is the ideal client, if you will, to put their product on Etsy.
Mhm.
Is this someone who says, I've been making these cute little things and selling them to my neighbors, in my kitchen? Or is this someone that says, I have a brick and mortar store and I happen to have something that I also create? Like, who should look at this as a platform for their
Yes.
business?
If you have a brick and mortar store, you better be on Etsy. If you're not,
Okay.
oh my gosh, you are losing so much money. So much money on the table, I would say. And I would say a really good idea if you are brick and mortar is to get at least 50% of your sales coming from online. Um,
Okay.
that would just eliminate a lot of risk as well for you and give you options. Anyone we work with, I wouldn't recommend treating this like a hobby. If you want to do a hobby, you'll get hobby results.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, your profit will not look very good if you treat it like a hobby. Yeah, if you're not
Right.
focused on the right things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
so good. Okay, so where can people find you, reach out to you if they're interested in the summit coming up or working with you one-on-one? How do they get in touch?
Yeah, just you can follow us on Instagram at Dylan Jarvis and send us a message. Just say you listen to the podcast, and we'd be happy to just talk to you about your shop and what's kind of going on with it.
I love that. We'll put that information in the show notes. So if you guys are driving around or busy behind the counter right now and you can't take notes, you can head over to the show notes and we'll have that listed out for you. I love what you do. I love that you are focused on the numbers, not just creating sales for people, but helping them take home a paycheck. That's amazing because a lot of coaches and consultants are not focused on that. It's not the sexy part and it's the hard work, right? But you and your team, you really care about making sure that people are profitable at the end of the day. And so I'm so excited about spreading the word about what you do. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Ciara. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
And thanks for listening, everyone. If you are interested in working with Dylan, at least check out what she's doing. So head on over to Instagram, follow her, take a look at what's going on. I think this would be just a great option for all of you that have brick and mortar stores, like she mentioned. Let's dig in and find ways to create more profit and keep more cash. All right, I'll see you all next week. Bye for now. Your host, Ciara, and today Hey, Hey there, if you got some good bite-sized actionable steps from the book Inventory Genius, then you will be excited to hear that I will be dropping my next book in the series, Profit Genius, very soon. That's right, Profit Genius is coming out on September 18th. And if you pre-order your copy, I have some special bonuses that I'd like to include for you. So head on over to ciarastockeland.com to pre-order your copy of Profit Genius or click on the link in the show notes.